Welcome to the Outlaws Podcast. This is Ryan, and today I'm going to have a special guest joining me on the show very shortly, but first I've got to give him a call. Hold on just a second.
Hello?
Benny, you're on the podcast.
What's going on?
How's everything going down in the Lone Star State?
Well, it's going.
So Ben,
I can tell you this, I've had 4 or 5 jobs in the past 5-6 years, and this is by far the clear-cut worst one I've ever had. So that right there will just tell you everything you need to know.
that's not good to hear. So are you going to stay down there in Dallas, or do you have any plans to move home or move somewhere else?
Well, it's all up in the air right now, so we'll save that for a later time and discussion.
All right. Well, things got pretty heated there in that group text message. It started off with a playful little jab about some politics, and then, actually, I don't know. Why don't you tell me how playful was that jab meant for Big Ben and maybe Derek? I guess the joke about the.
I'm sorry, I'm on the freeway. I can't hear that well right now. What'd you say?
I was just wondering how serious you were when you sent that little jab over in the group text of pointing out to the churches always looking for that extra dollar.
It was half joking, half serious.
Ben took Big Ben definitely took offense to that, and then everybody started, giving their input on certain situations in the political world. So it was definitely a different type of group text than we've ever had before.
Well, yeah, and this is what anybody else. Big Ben needs to get riled up. It doesn't take much. So, I figure I'd throw something like that in there. He'll definitely get a response. But yeah, I do think we should have some type of that would be kind of interesting to have some type of political, debate, roundtable, something like that. I'd be interested in it. It sounded like other people would be as well.
Yeah, I think it would be fun too. I do wonder how civilized we'd be able to keep it, though. I think that things could get escalated pretty quickly in that setting.
Yeah, that may actually be for the best if we don't do something like that, because typically, anytime you really discuss politics and really religion as well, it just kind of tends to result in a bunch of arguing and shouting and yelling, and people just end up pissed off one another for the rest of the night.
Now, we know Nick's take on Ted Cruz. We know he's definitely not a fan. I still was not real sure if Adam was joking or not. Did you ever figure that one out?
In reference to his Ted Cruz remarks?
Yes.
I got the feeling he was basically saying that Ted Cruz is unintentionally funny. Like, he doesn't like him, but he's somebody that makes him laugh, but he's not trying to be funny.
Yeah.
I got the feeling he was being quite sarcastic.
I gotta be honest, based on everything I've seen of Ted Cruz and his stances and everything, I pretty much agree with almost everything that I've seen from him. So, I don't know every single stance that he takes on particular issues, but I'm right now a Ted Cruz fan.
Yeah, I just want to, before we go any further, I'm just looking at you. So are we firing away a political podcast here, or what are we doing?
I don't know. I just getting, just jumping into it a little bit. I figured we'd probably talk some fantasy football later on.
I don't know. I'm not I don't really know that much of his stances. I agree with him on some things, other things, I don't know. I think he's kind of phony, just like pretty much every other politician going on nowadays.
Yeah,
the only politician that I guess I could say respect that I at least somewhat trust is a guy named Trey Gowdy. Have you ever heard of that guy?
Oh, he's awesome. Did you see him when he was grilling the IRS, John Kosinski or whatever his name is? Did you see that hearing?
No, but yeah, I heard that they put him ahead of the IRS investigation though.
Yeah, he's a special investigator. He used to be a special prosecutor, I believe, and you got to look up that YouTube video of him grilling the IRS, the head of the IRS. It's pretty funny. He's very intense for a politician.
Oh, he's extremely intense. Yeah, like you said, he used to be a prosecutor. There's several clips of him on YouTube. Yeah, just going off on people. He has one where he just goes off on Eric Holder. It's pretty awesome.
So do you want to go politics here, or do you want to go fantasy football?
I think we should probably keep the politics for another time, especially once they have a bigger group involved. We should probably keep this strictly football related.
All right. Well, you finally joined the Fantasy Football League last night, I believe. We were just missing Blake, who's agreed to play in Heavy C. Who did you ever talk to Heavy C?
Oh yeah, I got the Heavy C's in. I don't know if he signed up, but I talked to him last night. He got the email, shot it over to Derek. I just told Derek, Derek never responded, but I'm sure he got it. I told Derek, next time you're sending out the invite, I basically told him to send Caleb the invite to the football league if he wants to play.
Okay. Well, we might as well just talk about.
He should be in there.
Okay. Yeah, he might be. I don't know. Last I checked, those were the last two that we are missing. Have you done any mock drafts yet?
I have not. I peeked at the rankings last night.
Anything jump off the page to you?
Not really. I mean, when I say peek, I mean I browsed the first page for like 10 seconds, so I don't really remember the rankings at all. Other than I think Jamal Charles number 1.
Charles is number 1. I'll briefly just give you the top 5. Charles number 1, McCoy number 2, AP number 3, Eddie Lacy 4, and Matt Forte at 5.
Man, Eddie Lacy 4. Yeah, I guess. I don't know, football more so than anything is a sport where I always kind of forget how well a player does or doesn't do the year before. Well, I guess if they don't do well, I remember that. But if they do, like Eddie Lacy, I would have never picked him to be, the 4th ranked player. But I guess he had a better year than I realized last year. And I did read that they're expected to give him more snaps this year. The Packers are, I guess, supposed to run a more up-tempo offense than they usually do.
Yeah, I saw that report as well. I was also a little bit surprised by Lacy being so high. I would have thought a top 10 pick, but more in the back end of the first round instead of in the front end. I'm probably not going to have Eddie Lacy on my team this year.
Yeah, I don't see myself paying the. Obviously, he's going to go for one of the prices of the high-end running backs. I just don't. I don't see myself show. I'd rather spend a few extra bucks to get somebody like a McCoy or a Charles or. I'd honestly rather have somebody like Forte over Lacy, but that's just me personally.
Now, historically, Drew has not been a big spender in auction drafts. Last year, he actually did spend big. He's changed it up a little bit, at least in the football draft. He took Charles, who is a high-priced player, although he got him for a pretty good deal. But I know that there's one guy in this top 10 that he has got to be having his eyes on. Arian Foster at number 10. He's just about the right age for Drew to start taking notice, and I think he
does have a Drew pick written all over it. A player that's kind of possibly beyond his glory, a little bit over the hill, and kind of an unknown going. I could see him going both ways. Being kind of washed up and not doing that well, or I could see him bouncing back pretty solid and having a pretty good year because he's I don't know I'm actually really interested in him as well, just depending on how much he goes for.
Yeah, because he's still pretty young. I don't know about the Texans' offensive line for most of his career there was just dominant, and so I don't know how the O-line situation is. That might be something I want to look into before I place a bid on Foster.
I don't know. Are they? Is he still expected to get the bulk of the carries? Or are they going to try to do some type of timeshare?
Oh yeah, he's supposed to get all the work. Ben Tate is on the Cleveland Browns now, and they pretty much don't have anybody else.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's interesting for sure.
Another guy in the first page here that I wanted to ask you about is your boy DeMarco Murray. It seems like you're all. I know you've never had him.
I don't think I've ever owned DeMarco Murray, but boy, what does that mean?
You're right. It means that every time I feel like I'm talking to you about fantasy football, you always are kind of talking up DeMarco Murray, even though you've never had him. Like you've always wanted him or always been interested in him. I could definitely see you putting a play on DeMarco this year.
I feel like it's not so much. It's more to do with I feel like every year the value is he goes for a relatively good value for what he produces. That's what it has to do more than anything. Not necessarily that I'm impressed by him. It's just the fact that I feel like he goes. I feel like he's a real solid number 2, and he potentially could be a number 1.
Yeah, I could see that, and I think Nick got him in the 20s last year because everybody was so worried about his injury risk. So
he did. He got him for a pretty good deal. I do remember.
Yeah. Who's a better bounce back candidate to you between Alfred Morris and I guess I'll say Foster. I mean, do you put Foster? They're ranked pretty far apart. Foster's at 10, and Alfred Morris is at 24. But do you see Morris having a chance to overtake Foster as somebody you would draft?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Morris finished ahead of him. I would probably still rather have Foster. I'm going to be honest. I have no idea what Alfred Morris's stats were last year.
You know what? I thought he had a bad year, but I'm looking at his stats and they're better than I thought they were. He had 1,275 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns, 200. I guess it's attempts. He never catches any passes. That's what always hurts him.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of a toss up to me. I guess if I had to choose, I'd probably lean a little bit more towards Foster. Because, like you said, Morris doesn't get a bunch of those receptions, whereas Foster gets the time for a running back.
Now, last year, after your big disappointment with Tom Brady, you said that you were never spending big on a quarterback ever again. Are you going to hold true to that?
We'll see. I don't know. It depends on. Everybody says one thing, and once you get in the war room, it all flies out the window. It depends on what happens. You got to fly by the seat of your pants in those things.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, when I left the draft last year, and my second running back was Montee Ball, who ended up being like the third string running back for the first few weeks of the season, I was in big trouble. I never thought I would take Montee Ball. So the draft, you end up, and when the real draft happens, you end up taking a bunch of players that you never think are going to be on your team. I'll just put it that way, because all the guys that you want, seems like somebody else wants them, and the price goes a lot higher than you're ready to pay.
Yeah, and I will say one of my problems that I have every year that I can't ever seem to overcome is I go into the draft locked into like, okay, I'm going to for sure get at least this player or this player, and I come away generally with one of the two players I want, but it just usually I take a big hit on my team, with the prize it goes for generally. It's not always, but typically something like that happens. So I got to kind of learn to adjust a little bit and kind of taper my expectations.
Obviously, McCoy was one of those players last year, and that one worked out for you, even though he spent like $77 on him. He was awesome last year. But another one was Chris Johnson. Was he somebody that you came in to the draft actually wanting last year, or was that just a situation where he is the last guy on the tier and you wanted another good running back?
Absolutely not. Yeah, that's exactly. I think it was between him and maybe Frank Gore, or maybe even gone on, but there was literally nobody left. So I had to do what I had to do. Looking back on it, I would have just said screw that. And I don't know. That was a tough. I don't want to find myself in that situation again because Chris Johnson, I wouldn't even pay $10 for this guy this year. Yeah,
I don't think I would either. Generally, I can't remember any time where you were willing to go and spend money on the older running backs, the guys that are near that 30 age mark. One of them last year that I think you were interested in, but you didn't draft was Steven Jackson. He's getting up there in age, coming off a bad year, but he really wasn't too bad after the second half of the year. It was just kind of under the radar because the Falcons were so bad. Would you spend $25 on Steven?
No, I've always been interested in him, and pretty much every previous year I've always been definitely big on him and kind of been interested in him as a number 2. But at this point, I really don't see myself making a play on either Gore or Jackson unless for some unknown reason they go for just insanely cheap, which I think honestly it's going to be kind of the same situation that happened last year where all the running backs are gone, all the top ones, and then people are going to be forced to overpay for Steven Jackson and Frank Gore because there's going to be nobody left.
Yeah.
So I'm just hoping one of those idiots in there is me.
Now, going into the draft last year, I really wanted C.J. Spiller, and I think Brandon ended up taking him because he went for a few bucks more than I thought he was. But, this is that time of the year where you got to be careful with the coach speak. I remember in the preseason last year, they were saying they were going to feed C.J. Spiller the ball until he threw up and all this stuff about him being a 25, 30 carry a game back, and that just didn't play out at all. They're still ranking him pretty high, though. He's ranked 28th overall, and he had 2 touchdowns last year. He rushed for 900 yards.
Wow. Only 2 touchdowns?
Only 2 touchdowns. Fred Jackson's still there, and I know that he's getting older in age, but he had a pretty good year last year, if I remember correctly. I don't think I'm ready to go invest in C.J. Spiller considering what he did last year.
Yeah, Spiller's one of those guys where, obviously if given the opportunity, he's shown that, he could be an elite running back, but it's just, like you said, it's just that backfield's so crowded, and every year is like just a hype around, certain players. So this guy's, he's in the best shape of his life, or we're gonna, like you said last year, I specifically remember that quote. We're gonna run him until he throws up. And I even saw something a few days ago about how they were saying the same thing. We're gonna give Spiller tons of carries, blah blah blah. But it's like you said, they still have Fred Jackson there who just seems to defy, father time. Always produces, is always solid. And I know that I think didn't they sign Bryce Brown as well?
Yeah, they did. That's a good point.
And one other guy, I'm sure Brown and that other guy probably won't play very often, but that just Stiller's the guy that kind of scares me, just because he's going to go for one of the elite running back prices, and I just don't see him producing at that level. It's not through any fault of his own, but just because the coaches or other running backs on the roster or things like that. So I'd be a little reluctant to take Spiller as I'd be a little reluctant to spend 50 plus bucks on him.
So when you come to the draft this year, this is probably too early to ask, but are you going to come in with a set strategy, or do you think you're just going to let the draft play out? I usually come into the draft knowing that I want to spend a certain amount of money on my particular positions, but last year it didn't play out at all because I ended up going wide receiver heavy. But do you come into the draft with an idea of something like that?
I really don't. It's not. It's more so not necessarily the position. It's more so a specific player too that I come into always one, and it's what I get myself into trouble in, like I was saying. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. It's still a month away. So like I said, I haven't went too much at the rankings or anything yet. So I got to do a little bit of research, and we'll see. I'm tempted to just say screw it, sell the big bucks. Go after a Breeze or a Rodgers, because just having that elite QB is such a great feeling, but it's tough because I know every year Heavy C's going to be in play for Breeze. I feel like him or Michael is always going to be willing to go all out for Breeze, and Rodgers is another elite quarterback that people always spend the big bucks on. So it's just going to be tough. I have no idea what my strategy is yet.
Now, I know that you're never a fan of using the defenses in fantasy. Is that something that you're still trying to get us to apply to our leagues, to get rid of defense as a position?
Oh, I'd be perfectly fine if we got rid of defense. That'd be perfect fine with me.
But then I was wondering how would Drew and Heavy C allocate those extra $3 that they normally spend on their defense?
I guess Drew needs to apply that to spend $5 on a kicker, because he usually spends 2 or 3 on a kicker as well.
Yeah. Well, if I had to ask you one player, I'm going to just throw out a few managers here. If I had to ask you one player that you thought Brad would draft in the upcoming draft, who would you pick?
I guess, I don't know, it's got to be a Bucs player, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean...
I just don't know. Who do they have? They got Martin and Vincent Jackson, but it's not like Doug Martin.
They've got Doug Martin, Vincent Jackson, and they also drafted Mike Evans, who was a top 10 pick out of Texas A&M, the big receiver Manziel threw all those TDs to in college.
Yeah, I don't know anything about him, so I don't know.
What about for Drew?
No, Drew, I feel like Andre Johnson's a lot for his team again.
That's a good point, because has he had him like 3 straight years now?
Yeah, I think it's been at least 2, I think.
Yeah, at least 2, if not 3. I thought I remember him taking him. I can't remember how many years ago that was when we had the draft at Andy's house, because I know he took him that year.
Yeah, it's Andre Johnson. It's he's another guy that, like, just in real life, it kind of pisses me off because he's such a good player. I feel like they don't utilize him near as much as they should, like, especially down in the red zone.
1,400 receiving yards last year, but just 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, like, he puts up, yardage every year. It's just those TDs are what hinder him a little bit, because I don't know if it's just a play calling or what. I mean, he's a huge body, so it's not like he's not a red zone target. Or just for whatever reason, he just doesn't get the touchdowns. A lot of times I feel like they don't even run like red zone plays for him when they get close to the goal line.
I've never owned him before, so I don't remember looking out for that, but he's always been a low touchdown guy. I don't think he's ever had more than 8 touchdowns in a season.
I know he's never had double digits. Yeah, he's one of those players, and I could be completely wrong on this, but because I have owned him in 1 or 2 years, I know at least once, and I feel like pretty much every receiver is like this, but I feel like he will get you one of those huge games and then put up 30 yards the next. And like I said, I guess you can make that case for pretty much every receiver in the league, but I feel like Johnson will have games where he'll get you tons of points, and then 2 or 3 games where he gets you 7 points combined in like a 2 or 3 game span, which is just frustrating.
Who's one player that you think you can see Blake taking?
I don't know. I feel like he's a pretty big Morris fan, Alfred Morris fan.
That's true. I did try to trade for him early last year, and I couldn't get him from Blake.
I
It'll
don't know.
be interesting this
I mean,
year. Last year,
Blake's a wild card. Nobody talks to Blake. Nobody knows
right?
his inclinations or his leaning towards players. So I have no idea. He's like I said, he's kind of a wild card, kind of like Caleb is. Although I think we do kind of know Caleb's strategy from last year. I think they kind of taught us a little bit how he likes to go heavy on those receivers and QBs.
Now, it seems like every year there's always a fairly unknown Bronco that Josh drafts. The first year we played, it was Eddie Royal, who I'd never heard of at the time of the draft, and he had like a 1,000-yard season. Last year I had heard of him, but I didn't think anybody would draft him. It was Julius Thomas, who was just dominant, probably one of the top 3 tight ends in fantasy. He's going to be drafted that high again. Do you think Josh is going to take another Bronco? They drafted a rookie receiver in the second round. I could see him going with some kind of sneaky pick again. I think last year though he did take Ronnie Hillman and Drew was able to get Moreno, so maybe that's one that he actually missed out on.
Oh yeah, I mean Josh, like you said, Josh always gets he's always going to go for that Bronco up and comer. He knows more about the Broncos than anyone in the league, so I would imagine he'll do the same thing again, depending on what you said was the wide receiver they drafted.
They drafted Cody Latimer from Indiana in the second round, I think. I had him in my. The only reason I know who that is because he was on my college fantasy football team. Had some big games for me.
Oh yeah, are you playing in that league again? The Knicks doing?
Yeah, I think I am. It was actually really fun, and I didn't watch any of my players play hardly ever. I just looked at the stats at the end of the week and picked up players. I think I ended up with one player left on my team that I had taken on draft night because I guess the rankings on Fantrax when they rank those college players, they're just horrible rankings. They have no idea what they're doing. So I remember I dropped like.
I feel like all the games, all the scores would be so high just because there's so many players to choose from. Are the scores generally really high?
Oh yeah, they're definitely high. And college is just higher scoring in general. So I would have several weeks where I scored 150 points. I had a couple where I scored over 200, and that's just the standard roster size. So
yeah.
All right, let's talk.
Real fast, what is your opinion on this? I noticed we had a couple of texts about this a few days ago, a little group text action. Going to 3 wide receivers again? What's your opinion on that?
I like the flex better, but I'm not opposed to adding a starting position where we did 3 receivers and 2 running backs and a flex. But I think most people started a wide receiver in their flex anyway, but I don't think it's. I guess it doesn't really matter that much to me, but I kind of like the way it is right now. What about you?
Yeah, I don't really care. I wouldn't mind. Either way, it's fine with me. I just think if we add a third wide receiver, we should take away the flex, and if we don't, then just can't keep the flex. Just because, like I was saying, I don't think the waiver wire can take that hit of adding that one additional roster spot.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Unless we pull an Eric and just take away all the bench spots.
It'd be interesting to see how many people started a receiver over that flex position. Because I bet.
I think that's out of necessity, just because. I typically like to always start a running back there, but the running backs are so skinny these days with all the committees. It's just tough.
Right. Yeah, I never would have had a receiver in the flex 3 years ago, but last year I probably had a receiver in that spot 75% of the time.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Johnny Football. What's going on with Johnny? I saw last week he sent out that text where he was rolling up $1 in the bathroom. Nobody knows if he was snorting some cocaine or whatever, but this guy's a partier. He says he's not going to change, but let's talk about him for fantasy, I guess. I think he's in the top 20 at quarterback, but just barely. He's probably going to go for $2 or $3, but he's got no weapons. Last year you took Brady, even though his receiving situation was kind of depleted. This is a little different situation because he's going so cheap. But is Manziel on your radar as somebody that you think you might draft and might start half of your games for the season or something like that?
I may. Not really. He, like you said, he has no weapons. Josh Gordon gets suspended for the year. I guess he should be suspended for the year. Isn't that what's going to happen?
Most likely, they haven't ruled yet, but everybody thinks.
Regardless, at some point, even probably be suspended again. So,
Right.
and I can't even name you their second wide receiver. Didn't Greg Little get traded away?
He did. I can't. Yeah, you're right. I can't. I think they got a bunch of like old veterans in there that nothing to get excited about. Who's that? I can't think of his name right now. I think. Nah, I'm probably not right. I thought Jason Avant went there and some other receivers on that type of level. Nothing to get too excited about though. So I don't see myself taking Manziel. To be honest, I'd probably rather have Josh McCown in Tampa Bay.
Oh yeah. I feel like we're both lying right now.
What?
I feel like we're both lying right now to try to drive this stock down. You tipped it off when you just said you'd rather have Josh McCown.
No, I'm being serious.
I was buying into you threw that out there.
No, I'm being dead serious. I would rather, at this point, if I was drafting tomorrow, I'd rather have McCown. Just because they got Vincent Jackson and Mike Evans coming in there. You know, we saw what he did with the big receivers last year. I mean, it's not the same offensive coordinator or whatever, and maybe those receivers aren't quite on the same level, but I think McCown could have some solid games this year.
Is Lovie Smith the coach now?
Yeah.
It's interesting. Brian Hoyer was awesome last year. Those 2 or 3 games that he started, Cleveland was scoring like 30-something points a game, and then he got hurt.
That's true. And Jordan Cameron was one of the sleeper guys that you took in the draft, and his stock's definitely gone up. I think I don't know if it's debatable whether you think his stock has gone up since Josh Gordon got hurt or not, but he is ranked at 5th at the tight end position ahead of Jason Witten.
Oh, yeah. Witten's another player I feel like will be on just as a lock for Drew's team, actually.
I could see that, too.
I feel like Drew's going to draft like half of his team again this year. I mean, he tends to stick with his guys, whatever sport, Hamilton, Fitzgerald. It's just he gets his guys and he stays with them through thick and thin.
I'm looking at some of the stats from last year, and I know that you had Vernon Davis, but I had no idea that he had 13 touchdowns last year.
Yeah, Vernon Davis is awesome. I have no idea what his projections or anything are this year. I don't know if they're changing anything up in terms of the offense or anything like that, but I would imagine he's still got to be one of the higher top 5 tight end rank for sure. I would imagine, right?
They've got him at number 2 right now, which I guess part of that's playing in that they don't know if Gronkowski's going to be fully healthy or not. Actually, they got him number 3 behind Julius Thomas. I feel like if Vernon Davis was on the Patriots, he'd be scoring like 15 touchdowns and having like 1,200 yards routinely every single season.
Yeah, he's good. It's such a ball-controlled run offense. Speaking of San Francisco, is Bolden still there? Who's their receiver?
In San Francisco?
Yeah.
I think they still have Bolden. They have Crabtree. I'm not sure if Manningham's back. They've got Quentin Patton. I can't think of who else, but I think it's pretty much the same crew of guys. But I probably should have brought up a list of actually these rosters and stuff, and so I'd actually know what I'm talking about. Because I did want to actually see if I could get some playoff picks out of you.
Oh, real life football?
Yeah. Do you think you could wing that if I went division by division?
Let's do it. Fire away.
All right. So let's start off with. Let's go AFC first. The NFC East, your favorite division. It's not particularly exciting, but the Patriots are in there. Patriots, Dolphins, Bills, and Jets. Who do you like, and do you think any of those teams that comes in second has a chance at the wild card?
I mean, should we even cover this division? I feel like I don't see.
Hey, in the NFL, things really change really fast year to year in the NFL. You never know what could happen.
That's true, but I mean, with Brady and Belichick in that division, and pretty much the fact that the other 3 teams aren't good, I think that's a lock for the Patriots, and I don't see any of those other 3 teams making a wild card.
Do you buy Tannehill as a long-term option?
I don't. I do not, and let me tell you why. Last year at this time, I would have said I think so. He's shown some poise because he had a few. I guess it was a couple of years. Wasn't he a rookie a couple of years ago?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
He had a couple late game drives. He didn't necessarily win those games, but he had a couple games where he made some big plays and they almost came back and won. But last year, I don't know. I feel like he kind of regressed a little bit, and It's so tricky nowadays because the NFL doesn't give players any time. The quarterback doesn't give them really much time to develop. So I don't really see Tannehill as the long term option myself. No, I think I'd be looking at somebody else. I mean, obviously for right now that's who they got to start, and he's still only third year in the league, but no, I don't see him as their long term option. No.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think the Jets were 8-8 last year. And
I have no idea.
And they've got Michael Vick coming in. Got Chris Johnson, who I personally don't really care about.
Gosh, I forgot about Vick.
So they got Vick, and they signed Eric Decker. So the offense, I mean, it was probably the worst offense in football last year, or right up there. So that's got to be a little bit better. Do you think the Jets have any shot at all? I know you said that you thought it was pretty much Patriots' division to lose, but on paper, I would think the Jets are going to be a little bit better.
I don't think so. I learned that if this was like 5-6 years ago, I'd be pretty excited. But I learned that a lot of people already know that. That's why you play the games. Paper doesn't win games. And we all know that. I mean, I would imagine every single person in our league would be shocked if Michael Vick played a full season. I don't see him lasting. I think Aaron Decker was probably obviously, is going to take a huge hit not playing with Peyton Manning anymore.
So
we'll see. And Chris Johnson, this guy's just washed up. So I'm not impressed with the Jets. I might be a little biased because I just don't like them personally.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see them. They had a 2 or 3 really lucky wins last year that they had no business winning. So I don't see them making any type of threat. Could they beat the Patriots in one of the 2 games they play? Yeah, maybe because Rex Ryan always seems to play them pretty well. But do I see them making the playoffs? I do not.
Well, let's move on to the AFC West then. We've got the Broncos, the Chiefs, the Raiders, and the Chargers.
I'm going to go ahead and say, just preface, I'm going to say that this is my favorite division in football.
The Chargers and Broncos are definitely.
Me, but I don't know. I just love this division.
It's funny too because I've always kind of liked the division too, even though other than last year, it's really had a lot of down years in a row before they had Manning.
It's been terrible. It's pretty much up until the Broncos got Manning, it was pretty much just the Chargers, and then all the other 3 teams were pretty much terrible. I know the Chiefs snuck in a couple of playoff bursts here and there for the past few years, but that division is recently in the past decade has been pretty bad. But I don't know. I always seem to enjoy the teams that play in it. I don't know.
And the Raiders in the offseason, they've got Matt Schaub now at quarterback. They acquired James Jones, the receiver from the Packers, and they got Maurice Jones-Drew. So they've got a few new offensive pieces in there, but nothing to get too excited about. The Chiefs were a huge surprise last year. If I remember right, they won a ton of really close games before
they did. They did. I don't see them repeating that success at all.
So, are you saying you don't think they're playoff caliber anymore, or are you just think they're not going to be contending for the number 1 seed? They were the best team in the league for much of the year.
Yeah, no, I don't. I still think they can make the playoffs. Obviously, that'd be crazy to think they're going to beat out Denver for that. For the division title, but I could see them making it as a wild card. Do I think they're going to? I do not, but I wouldn't be shocked. But they proved last year, actually in the playoffs, that first game they lost, that actually impressed me quite a bit. I was impressed with the Chiefs last year, but I don't think they'll make the playoffs this year.
And the Broncos are seemingly a lock. The only chance that the Broncos wouldn't make it is if Manning missed over half the season. The Chargers. I'll let you talk a minute about the Chargers because I know that's probably right up there with one of your favorite teams, along with the Patriots in the NFL.
Absolutely.
What do you think you're going to see from the Chargers this year?
I don't know. I was impressed with the Chargers last year.
Are you back on the Ryan Matthews bandwagon?
I'm going to be honest. I stand behind Ryan Matthews. I've been the only one that's been by him these past few years. I thought no one else likes him. Everybody hates him, but I don't know. I'm a pretty big Ryan Matthews fan. I look forward to drafting him on my team at a bargain price.
And, we talked about fantasy earlier. You got to think Gates has got a good shot to be on Drew's team this year. He seems about the right age.
Who?
Antonio Gates.
Yeah.
And I asked you about a week ago about your guy Ladarius Green, and you apparently didn't remember who that was. So, they've got Ladarius Green. A lot of people think he could be a breakout at tight end. Keenan Allen. Rivers, I mean, this guy is one of the hardest players in the NFL to peg. He was so horrible for up to last year for 2 or 3 years in a row. Last year he was great again, and now they lost Wisenhunt. I'm a little worried about that. I don't think the
I
Chargers are.
had no idea they lost Wisenhunt. Where did he go?
He's the head coach of the Titans now.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Right, so it'll be an interesting division. I think it'll be close between the Chargers and the Chiefs, but I like the Chiefs to finish second in that division.
So you picking the Chiefs to get that wild card in that conference, or do you think they'll miss out?
So are the new rules? Is that applied yet, or is that still? Is there just 2 wild cards still?
Oh, I mean, to my knowledge, I didn't realize they making new rules where there's an additional team added in each conference, or what?
Yeah, they were talking about it. I can't remember if it ever got passed or not, where they're trying to have like a 3 wild card and have 14 teams make the playoffs, but I don't know if that.
Oh, if they are, I don't think it's in place yet. I don't remember that.
I guess let's go ahead and move on to the AFC North yet, because I don't really know who I want to pick for my wild card picks yet, but I agree with you that the Broncos and the Patriots are clear favorites in their divisions. The AFC North, we got the Ravens, the Bengals, the Browns, and the Steelers. Steelers, I think they actually finished right around 500 last year, but they were horrible, had that horrible start to the season. And the Bengals really kind of ran away with the division.
Right here.
Most boring division?
It's just not the division. Weren't the Ravens terrible last year even?
Yeah, they definitely had a bad year. So,
man, you know what? As much as I want to see Manziel stick it to the naysayers and lead the Browns to a playoff berth, I'm not that crazy. I actually think Pittsburgh will win this division.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
You know, Big Ben, he's and I'm talking about, the real Big Ben Roethlisberger, obviously. He's doesn't have a bunch of fans in this league, it seems like, but I feel like this guy's just a crafty vet, goes out there, plays hurt. He's almost like a modern Brett Favre, maybe not to that extent, but obviously he wasn't as good, but he goes out there and he plays through pain every game, even some games where he probably shouldn't be playing, so I got to respect him for his toughness. I just think the Steelers are going to find a way to win this division, and that's not so much because I think they're going to be really good. I just think all the other teams, I just don't see any separation between all the other teams. And I will say this. I think Manziel is going to rally that team, and I think they're going to finish somewhere around 500. I wouldn't be shocked to see, a 7-9, 8-8 season from them.
Yeah, for that to happen, their defense would have to have a good year, I think, because I just don't see how they're going to score a lot of points. But I wouldn't be stunned if they won 7 games. So it sounds like you're giving a big slap in the face here to Andy Dalton. Let's be honest, because a lot of people think the Bengals have one of the most talented teams in football. Is that correct? That you're done with Andy Dalton?
Done. I don't think I was ever with Andy Dalton. That guy's glorified backup. I don't see how you can't. It's like you said. Yeah, their defense is awesome. They've got good weapons on that team, and he just can't produce.
You want me? I gotta give you right now.
Didn't he throw 3 picks in like one half in that playoff game last year, or something like that?
I think you're right. Now I gotta throw out this stat because I think it's one of the most shocking stats when I look at some of these stats from last year. Did you know that Andy Dalton was the number 5 quarterback in fantasy last year?
No. That's a glitch in the matrix. What that is. How the hell do you know how that's possible?
Yeah, number 5 ahead of Stafford, Rivers. Russell Wilson obviously wasn't anything too special. Finished ahead of Kaepernick, Matt Ryan, Roethlisberger, Brady, Nick Foles, Robert Griffin.
More than anything, that maybe the quarterback was down, and I imagine a bunch of those were garbage yards. I don't know, but that's shocking to me.
Yeah, it definitely is. Let me make sure that's even right. I've got it sorted by actual ranks because that just doesn't. You know what? I changed it from actual rank to sorted by most fantasy points, and he actually moved up a spot. Now he's 4th. So I guess it was pretty. I guess it was pretty legit. He had more fantasy points than Cam Newton.
That's insane. You tell me that right now, I would not touch Andy Dalton at all. I wouldn't spend $5 on him.
Yeah.
I'd wait to get a darn quarterback, and he wouldn't be one of the ones I spend $1 on. Like you put, it's like we just get like you put any good, not even great. You put any good quarterback on that Bengals team, they're definitely a championship contender. And even with Andy Dalton, they're still a contender. They have been the best. So I don't want to say contender, but they've been good enough to I think get to the Super Bowl. Some people have them going to the Super Bowl last year, but it's just I can never get fully behind that just because of Andy Dalton. He's just not. I just think he's a backup. I don't think he's a starter.
Yeah, one thing to watch out with this team is they lost both their coordinators. Their defensive coordinator, Mike Zimmer, is the head coach of the Vikings now. The offensive coordinator, Jay Gruden's the head coach of the Redskins now. And they did bring in Hugh Jackson, who I know that you are probably familiar with that name, the offensive coordinator from the Raiders previously. And he's trying to bring a ground and pound style to the Bengals. So maybe that'll help out Bernard and some of those running backs a little bit and take a little bit of pressure off Dalton.
I guess Marvin Lewis is still there. He's just a tree that never falls, the branch that never breaks. That guy
Isn't he like the second longest tenured coach in the league?
I think he is, behind Belichick. Yeah, it must be pretty cool knowing just because all the NFL coaches are palm tree like tree coaches under stress because they got to get their nose. They probably get fired every year. But Marvin Lewis uses every year and doesn't say my job's not on the line. I mean, I know the Bengals have obviously been pretty good the past 2 or 3 years, but that's crazy. Marvin Lewis of all coaches is the second, longest tenured coach in the NFL.
Yeah, that is definitely strange. Let's go to the AFC South. We've got the Texans, the Colts, the Jaguars, and the Titans. This is by far the most boring division in all of football and maybe all of sports.
I hated it even when Manning was with the Colts. I just hate this division. The Tennessee Titans are, I don't know, I just have never enjoyed watching that team even when they were good.
If the Titans and the Jaguars were kicked out of the league, I wouldn't care a bit.
I agree. I do want to say I did really like Steve McNair. I did appreciate him, but that's been 10 plus years ago. So
rest in peace.
And the Jaguars, Mark Brunell's not walking through that locker room anytime soon. So this is just I don't know. I just don't like this division.
Yeah, and the Jaguars, Blackman is likely out for the season again, another suspension. He's got the Josh Gordon syndrome. The Texans, I can't even think of who their quarterback is, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm going to click on their team and see what I can find out. Who is the Texans quarterback? Do you know? They signed Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's their starting quarterback.
Oh, there you go. Your savior right there, Ryan Fitzpatrick.
So,
and they not have that Cole Keenum guy?
Yeah,
anymore?
they've got Case Keenum, who's listed as second on the depth chart right now. Man, this is a really bad division. I don't even really want to talk about it unless you. I guess I do want to bring up one thing. The Colts, they're going to have Reggie Wayne back. T.Y. Hilton broke out last year when Wayne got hurt, and they also signed Hakeem Nicks in the offseason. They got their second-round tight end draft pick back from a couple years ago from Syracuse, Dwayne Allen. So they got a lot of weapons, it seems like. Trent Richardson, Ahmad Bradshaw, running back, Vic Ballard. I mean, I want nothing to do with that running back situation, but I think Andrew Luck could have his best year yet.
I think the Texans were stupid. Schaub was obviously horrible last year, but if your alternative is, let's just let him go and sign Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think that's dumb. He's not an upgrade at all. I'd actually probably rather have Matt Schaub than Ryan Fitzpatrick. And if anything, he's familiar with the team, with the offense, with the plays. And the Texans, I don't see how didn't they only win 2 games last year?
Yep, 2 games.
I don't see how, because I still think they have their defenses. They've got all the key components to be one of the top defenses again. I actually wouldn't be shocked if this team won the division, just because I think they're that talented.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm surprised by that. I don't know.
I think last year was just kind of an anomaly, especially if Foster bounces back, and even if not, the only thing that pisses me off is, like I said, I don't know why you get rid of Matt Schaub and bring in what's-his-face, unless it's some type of plan to save money, because obviously, Schaub's not the long-term answer, but, heck, neither is Fitzpatrick, and he's just kind of, a layover quarterback. So,
yeah, they
I think that's what they're thinking.
Kubiak's out of town. He's the coordinator now for the Ravens. And they got Bill O'Brien, former offensive coordinator for the Patriots, as their head coach now. I think that's a move that you would probably like, personally.
I don't care. Tom Brady runs that offense, so I'm not impressed by any of the offensive coordinators who play on the Patriots. I guess I didn't kind of like McDaniel just because he was always going for it. But
well, so any of these teams finishing above 500 other than the Colts? And do you think? Do you think the Colts are going to finish above 500? Is that a lock for you?
Yeah, just because that division's so bad. I'm going to say that Texans and Colts both finish above 500, and I think one of those teams that your 2 is one of your wildcard teams.
And for the record, are you on or completely off the Trent Richardson bandwagon?
No, I'm at the very bottom of that wagon. in the dust. It's way in the back. You read that report, like the Indianapolis Colts, blah blah blah, will not have a long leash with Trent Richardson this year, or something like that.
Yeah. So he had Donald Brown had a 5.3 yard per carry last year. What do you think Trent Richardson's yard per carry was?
2.6.
Pretty close. It's 2.9, and anything under 3.7 or so makes me very worried about a running back. But under 3, that's brutal.
Oh yeah.
So, he might bounce back. Everybody thought he was one of the best running backs in college just a couple years ago, but he's not going to be on my team. I can tell you that much right now.
Absolutely.
All right, so I guess let me get your wild card picks. If I've got the Colts, the Patriots, you took the Steelers, and what team am I missing out? The Broncos. So we've got 2 other teams from the AFC.
I'll say my wild card teams will be the Texans and the Bengals.
The Texans?
That's what I just said.
That's crazy.
What are you talking about? This team's loaded. Minus the QB.
I don't know. I really don't see it with the Texans. I think they're going to be one of the worst teams in all of football again.
If the Texans win all right, we got to put something on the line. Wait, who'd you pick for your wild cards?
Well, I am taking the Bengals over the Steelers, and I have the same picks to win the division as you. Other than that, I'm gonna take the Chiefs and scanning through. I guess I'm gonna take the Jets.
The Jets. Interesting. So we disagree on both of our wild cards.
I don't feel as good about the Jets, but
you're really gonna listen. You really want to trust the Jets over the Texans?
Oh yeah, I'm not. I don't think the Texans are gonna be very good at all.
Okay.
I think Arian Foster. I'll be honest. I had him. I think it was 2 years ago, and even at that point, I just wasn't impressed by watching him anymore. I just don't think he's that good anymore. To put things very simply, in a Bill Simmons kind of way, I just don't think he's that good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think he has to be great anymore for them to still, get in and make the wild card.
Yeah. Well, they did get Jadeveon Clowney.
I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if the Texans. I mean, I think I'm staying with my wild card picks, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Texans won that division, and then the Steelers won that division, and the Bengals were the wild card, and the Colts were the wild card. That's how far I'm willing to go.
Yeah, I would be stunned if the Colts don't win the division. But then again, this is a team that everybody's always said that they've gotten really, their record isn't nearly as good as it should be. Or, I'm sorry, I said that backwards. Their record is a lot better than what it should be because their point differential is not very good the last couple of years. So.
Yeah, I'm going to actually keep a full-fledged change my pick.
Whoa, all right, you don't have to be a shock jock.
No, I mean, not change the pick. I mean, I'm just going to say that I'm going to go ahead and for sure say that the Texans will finish above the Colts and make the playoff. They'll win the division. The Colts will be the wild card instead of the division winner.
Let's be honest. This is halfway about you just not being an Andrew Luck fan. I know you don't like his voice, and I know you just think he's kind of goofy.
That's not true.
Okay.
I just don't. I mean, you're right. I don't really like him, but the Colts just. I don't know. I'm not. Hell, I'm not even picking to not make the playoffs. You better don't test me.
All right, let's move on to the NFC. NFC, let's go to the NFC East, which is always one of the more polarizing conferences in football. The Cowboys, the Giants. You agree?
This actually might be one of my favorite divisions. I think it probably is my second favorite division behind the AFC. The AFC West.
Definitely, because there's so much parity in this division. You never know So any of the 4 teams, even the Redskins 2 years ago, I think they won the division 2 years ago when they made the playoffs. So anybody has a chance in this one.
Exactly, and even when they're not good, it's every single game is every single game between the division is a rivalry game. Regardless of what their matchup is. So
right.
Those games are definitely always interesting to watch. I enjoy watching all those matchups for sure.
So the Cowboys, they surprisingly to me have Jason Garrett back as head coach. They've got the Giants in here, the Eagles second year under Chip Kelly, and the Redskins with their new coach. And, of course, Deshaun Jackson, no longer an Eagle, now a Redskin. How do you think this division plays out?
I see. It's tough. I almost want to say I see the Cowboys winning this division. But I feel like that's just foolishness speaking. If if I were to say that.
They do appear to have the best. I don't even know if I should say that because the Eagles. It's kind of hard to say who's got the best offense because the Eagles lost Deshaun Jackson, but Chip Kelly is so good. The Giants spent their first-round pick on Odell Beckham, the receiver from LSU, their first-round pick. And the Cowboys, I mean, they have a lot of weapons. They're still very capable of putting up big numbers, and they've been taking all these offensive linemen each of the past few years in the first round of the draft. A lot of people think that they could have the best offensive line in football this year.
The Giants?
The Cowboys.
Oh, the Cowboys?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea. I don't know. Who do you have winning this division? Because I honestly, I can't.
I would not be stunned out of any of the four teams, and I'm going to resist the report that said Eli Manning is rejuvenated this season. I'm going to go with the Eagles.
I didn't see that. The Eagles, huh?
I'm going to take the Eagles and just put my blind faith in Chip Kelly. I think the Cowboys' defense is about as bad as anybody's in football, so that's why I'm not going to take them.
Yeah, I could see. I mean, I don't see the Redskins at all, but any of the other three teams, I would not. I mean, I would not be shocked at all if they won. I want to say it'll come down to the Giants and Cowboys. I'd like to see the Eagles win it, but I'm not sure. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that Chip Kelly offense is gonna. I don't know. I know they were well last year, and they had to be one of the highest scoring teams, but. Mm-hmm. I feel like maybe a year under, the coordinator's belts to study them. I don't know if it's going to be as effective this year. And I'm going to say Cowboys, my initial pick. That was the first thing that popped out, so I'm going to stick with the Cowboys.
Okay, we'll have to revisit this division, perhaps, because this could be a division where we might have a wild card team. Now, the best division in football, and I don't think there's any question about that, they might have the two best teams in all of football in the same division, and two other teams that are easily capable of making the playoffs in the NFC West. The Arizona Cardinals, the 49ers, the Seahawks, and the Rams. Any chance that the Rams or the Cardinals can overtake either of these two teams?
That's a negative, Captain.
Cardinals didn't even make the playoffs last year, even though they won 11 games. The Rams put a beating on the Colts late in the season, and they won, I think, 8 games or so with Kellen Clemens playing most of their games at quarterback.
They were actually what was shocking me was how well the Rams played in a bunch of those games, and they even hung in there with San Francisco. Did they actually beat San Francisco for those games?
I don't remember, but I think that they were they the team that beat the Seahawks at home, or was that the Cardinals I'm thinking of? I think that was the Cardinals actually, so scratch that. But yeah, the Rams they may have I just feel like the Rams late in the season they were playing a lot of close games against really good teams.
That division, that entire division is that's a fun division to watch too. It's all four teams are so physical. The Cardinals had a really good defense last year as well.
Oh yeah, they had. This is the team that all of them have really good defenses, and the Cardinals probably had a top 5 defense last year. I'm checking that Rams some of their results last year towards the end of the year.
Patrick Patterson is awesome.
Oh yeah.
He's one of my favorite. That guy's one of my favorite players in the league. I hope that he isn't he hurt right now?
If he is, I wasn't aware of that.
Okay, maybe I'm just thinking of Matthew because I know Matthew is.
And
I don't know. I guess Patterson sells him, but he's awesome. His versatility on the field he's just fun to watch. And
the Seahawks are going to have a full year, of Percy Harvin, or at least he's going to start the year healthy.
Seahawks are fun. The Niners are cool. That's tough that's just tough that the Cardinals and the Rams are in that division because I could see both of them totally making the playoffs in other divisions.
So I think both of us are on the same page that we might as well just go ahead and I'm going to take Seattle. You might be different than me, but we're both agreeing that Seattle and 49ers are playoff teams. Do you see Seattle winning the division or San Francisco?
I think this is San Francisco's year. They're going to put it all together, and I think they're going to win the division. And I actually think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year, but that's getting ahead of ourselves. Yeah,
I remember when we were doing our playoff picks last year. If I remember right, you picked San Francisco to win the whole thing, and they didn't even have a home game throughout the playoffs, but they played San Francisco really close. I mean, it was just that Sherman, big play Sherman at the end of the game, breaking up that ball to Crabtree, or they would have won the game. So
there's no doubt in my mind that I think a lot of people felt this way, but that basically was the Super Bowl. That the winner of that game was more than likely going to win everything.
Yeah, and you were right by that because they just destroyed the Denver Broncos in the Super Bowl. So, okay, so let's move on to the next division. Hold on just a second. Trying to get to the page. I'm on the wrong page. Help me out here.
Real fast, I just want to throw this out there. I just wish the Cardinals had a competent quarterback. That just sucks because they could be so good.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Do you think Sam Bradshaw? Sam Bradford. Do you think Sam Bradford is going to be a difference maker, or do you think not much of an upgrade over Clemens?
I don't like Sam Bradford at all. I actually dislike Sam Bradford quite a bit. Or Fitzgerald just wasted. What a sad story. He just wasted his prime away.
Oh, no doubt. You're right about that. Man, I'm having some trouble with the computer. I'm just going to go off the top of my head. The NFC Central, hopefully I remember all the teams. The Vikings, the Packers, the Lions, and who am I missing? The Bears.
Yeah.
So, this is another one of those fun divisions, in my opinion. I think any of these teams could. I think the Vikings are going to be much improved this year. And I think that I wouldn't be shocked. I'd be surprised if the Vikings won the division, but I wouldn't be shocked by it. And I think that there's a very good chance that the Bears and the Packers and the Lions could win this division. And remember, the Lions got Golden Tate in the offseason.
Is that supposed to do something for me?
You don't like Golden Tate?
I just don't think he's a difference maker on the team. I mean, I don't think he's like going to help push them over the top or anything.
Well, if I remember right, their second receiver last year for much of the year was Chris Durham, who isn't very good, and because Nate Burleson had that pizza accident. Yeah. So I don't know. I think it could help a lot, and they spent their first round pick on the number one tight end of the draft. So they've got a lot of weapons offensively, but we say that every year.
Yeah, I think. So why are you so high on the Vikings?
I don't know. It's more about the coach coming over and Mike Zimmer, and another year with Patterson, Cordero Patterson, and Greg Jennings. I feel like they got good receivers and good skill players.
Did they draft a quarterback relatively high?
Teddy Bridgewater. I think it was
drafted Bridgewater.
Yeah. So, I to be honest, I don't know if what to make of that, but it can't be worse than Ponder.
Wasn't that guy before college started last year? Wasn't he like the number one, potential number one pick?
Yeah, he was, and apparently he had a brutal pro day. He had a really good year. He had a really good season, but his pro day, that people went to go watch him in person, and I guess it was like historically bad or something for some reason. And they said that he was a lot smaller than they had realized, so that's kind of why he slipped in the draft.
And I've always liked the Vikings, and as much as I'd love to see Adrian Peterson be able to play in one more playoff game before he retires, I think this is the Packers' division to lose.
Okay, so what about the Bears? I mean, the Bears seemingly.
I think the Bears will be good. I don't see the. I just think the Packers are gonna. And I think it'll be close, but I think the Packers are gonna win this division.
I think the Bears and the Packers are two very similarly built teams. Their defenses have both been atrocious the last couple of years, but offensively, considering what we saw of the Bears last year, they are one of the better offensive teams in the league. I think the difference is just Rodgers is just better than Cutler.
Yeah.
So you're taking the Packers. I'm gonna take the Packers, but there's a good chance the Bears are one of my teams for the wild card. In the NFC South, we've got the Falcons, the Panthers, the Saints, and the Bucks. This is a division where I could really see this division flip from where we saw it last year. I'm not buying the Panthers as the best team in this division going into this season.
Yeah, this is interesting.
I'll be honest. I'm thinking about taking the Bucks here.
The Bucks.
I was pretty high on them last year. It didn't work out, but
I think you're a little too high on
Mike Evans, Josh McCown, Lovie Smith.
Yeah, I can't.
Doug Martin with a bounce back season.
Who do you think you're talking to, Brad?
I don't know. They did lose Revis.
No, Revis, who cares? This guy's done.
Oh, he's a Patriot now.
Darrelle Revis? That's right. Holy crap. I completely forgot about that. Didn't they sign him right after this, during right after the season ended?
Yeah, he's their Talib.
They signed somebody else on defense too, didn't they?
Brandon Browner from the Seahawks.
Yes, they did. Oh my gosh, I forgot about both of those.
Oh, the Patriots are going to be stacked this year.
I don't know. I don't know. Revis wasn't very good last year. I don't. Hopefully, the Patriots have a way of doing that with certain players, but hopefully I'm wrong. And Revis is awesome, but I just don't see it happening. I always like that Bolden guy though on that cornerback on the Seahawks.
Yeah, he's like 6'4" and like 230 pounds. Yeah. Okay, so the Falcons, the Panthers, the Saints, and the Bucks. I don't see the Panthers finishing anywhere close to what they did last year. They lost Steve Smith to the Ravens, so the receiving situation is the worst in the NFL, and it's really not close. I mean, it's just flat out horrible. They did take Kelvin Benjamin from Florida State, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, their defense is still really good, and I feel like I don't know. I think they'll still be good. I want to pick the Saints, but their defense is so bad.
Yeah, but I feel like they could easily outscore enough teams to win 10 games or so.
Yeah, you're right. I don't see the Panthers or the Bucks, being juggernauts on the offensive side of the ball. The Falcons, they're kind of a team that's confusing. I guess Julio Jones, is he healthy to start the season?
Yes, he is.
Okay, that's interesting. Who's their starting running back? Is Steven Jackson still their starter?
Yeah, he's their starter, and they drafted Devontae Freeman from Florida State, who's.
Yeah, this division is almost as tricky as the NFC East to me. Oh man, I don't know. It's tough. I can't pick a team.
I'm gonna go with the Saints.
You what?
I'm gonna go with the Saints. I was gonna go Bucks, but then as I was talking through it, I realized that I had forgotten they lost Revis. So I mean, I guess he's maybe not as good as he was, but second year off of the ACL surgery, he could have been improved from where he was last year. So I don't know.
Yeah, ACL. I mean, that's just a big thing to come back from, especially when you're freaking. I just feel like that's tough in general, especially for a cornerback when everything's about your reaction time. So I don't know. I hope he is really good since he's on the Patriots, which I apparently had forgotten all about. But
yeah,
I guess I'll go Saints. But I see this division actually being pretty close in the standings all year. I think all of them are pretty.
When you're thinking about this division, do you see the Bucks as a clear-cut worse team in the division, or do you think they could have a chance to get up to the top?
I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I think the Bucks are the clear-cut worst team. I do.
I had a feeling that was your opinion. It is pointing out that Matt Ryan was a whole lot better, especially in fantasy, when Julio was on the field. So, Falcons, they were a really good team for a few years before last season, so they could easily bounce back, kind of in Houston Texans style type of way.
Yeah, they could. I mean, they could very easily. Like I said, I see this being close all year, and I honestly could see 3 of those 4 teams, like the NFC East, I could see 3 of those 4 teams, winning the division.
Man, there is so many options that you could go to choose your wild card team for the NFC. I'm obviously taking the 49ers as one of mine, and the other one I'm going to stick with the Bears. But there's a lot of options here.
All right, so and I guess that means I'm taking the Seahawks and. Man.
Let me throw out a few names for you. You got the Cardinals, the Rams, the Redskins, the Eagles.
Is that possible for 3 teams to make the playoffs? I guess it is.
Yeah. Panthers, Falcons, Bears, Lions, Rams, Cardinals, Redskins, Eagles, Giants. You got one team from that.
I guess I'm gonna go Falcons.
Okay. So you're buying the bounce back seasons for the Falcons and the Texans.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Julio Jones is back. I don't know. I'm not putting a lot of thought into this.
Right.
I don't know.
Okay, so we're running up there in time. We're at an hour and 4 minutes, so we'll try to briefly go through the rest of the playoff picks and see what we can come up with. AFC. Let's go back over to the AFC. Do you want to?
What are we doing? We're running through this all the way to the Super Bowl?
Sure.
All right.
All right, so we might as well just pick. Are you in agreement that the AFC, that the top two teams are the Patriots and the Broncos, or do you think that another team is worthy of debate?
Uh, the Broncos definitely. The Patriots, I just don't know.
Even with the defensive upgrades, you don't think you're still worried about them?
Their receivers are so bad. I don't know if Gronkowski's a question mark.
They did get Brandon LaFell.
Do what?
They did get Brandon LaFell.
Blake will be happy. I'm pretty sure he's a big LaFell fan.
So, from what it sounds like, we might as well just put the Broncos into the Super Bowl. From what I am hearing here.
I say this all from the regular season. You know, playoffs are a different animal, but I think the Broncos are definitely the clear-cut best team in the AFC. I don't know if I can say Patriots are clear-cut.
Okay, well, yeah, let's do that. I agree with you there. I'm gonna take the Broncos. Give me a dark horse team from this conference that you think could make a deep run, or just another team. It doesn't even have to be a dark horse. Chargers. You always pick the Chargers for your dark horse team.
They can do it, man.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they have a sneaky good defense.
They can do it. I believe in them. Would I put money on it? No, but
yeah, that's not a bad one. As far as a dark horse team, I like that one. So, I don't have a better one, so I'll stick with that too. Okay, to the NFC. You've said that you are taking the 49ers. Personally, I think the Seahawks, I know it's boring, a repeat, but I think the Seahawks are just a little bit better, and Percy Harvin a full season is gonna make a difference.
I'd be shocked if it wasn't, 49ers Seahawks playing in the NFC Championship game again.
And a dark horse team from this conference for you.
I don't know. This conference isn't very good.
Well, I think this is a stacked conference.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just so many teams have question marks. I guess it's just because I'm looking at it at the viewpoint now where I just feel like as a league as a whole, there's only and I don't know, maybe it's always been like this, but I guess it seems like there's only, 4 or 5, really, really good teams in the entire league.
Yeah. I feel like I could pick almost any one of these teams as a dark horse. Who
would you rank as your third best NFC team besides or behind the Niners and Seahawks?
I guess probably the Packers, but that's definitely debatable.
Yeah, I don't think I can give you a dark horse. I see a lot of these teams being equal.
All right, well, anything else you want to talk about? I think we're both in agreement that we're going to take the NFC team over Denver again if we had to get to that game. Let's not
jump our guns. I don't think Denver's a lock for the Super Bowl at all.
Yeah, I don't either. It's just when you have to guess. We can make this a little bit more interesting and try to pick out different teams, but on paper, I think those are the clear-cut best 3 teams that we picked to be in the Super Bowl. So.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to bring up? Any politics? Any fantasy football mock draft talk or anything else?
I think we covered it all. How long has been going? An hour and 8 minutes. So yeah, I think we're running out of gas.
All right then. Well, for next time we'll try to do definitely another fantasy football preview before the season starts. Season is officially, I guess we haven't narrowed down that draft date, but it could be less than a month away if we're doing it on the 16th. Everybody needs to get on the message boards and state whether or not they can make that draft, because I know what's going to happen. If nobody can clear their schedule with their wives a month ahead of time, this is all going to be a cluster at the end.